Healthy. Leonard's right knee started giving him problems again after 3 days of practices with the U.S. Olympic men's team in Las Vegas. Inflammation in Leonard's right knee forced him to miss the final 8 regular season games and the last 4 games against Dallas in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Boston Celtics guard Derek White is replacing Leonard on the roster. More than 20,000 people, including former President Barack Obama, showed up at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas to watch Team USA beat Canada Wednesday night in an exhibition game. Anthony Davis had 10 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. The team leaves today for Abu Dhabi to play exhibition games against Australia and Serbia. The Summer Olympics begins July 28th in Paris. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California. Home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising at KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
That's Stevie Wonder, and I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm pleased to have you with us in this hour of our program. As promised, 2 conversations in this hour. On the B side of this hour, Chicago Sun-Times architecture critic Lee Bay on the Little Chicago fire of 150 years ago this week and how it reshaped the city's neighborhoods and the relationship between the storied communities in Chicago of Black people and the Jewish community. So we'll talk about that part with Lee Bay on the B side of this hour. We commence this hour with Never Trumper GOP consultant Rena Shaw for a preview of the upcoming Republican National Convention. Believe it or not, that convention is next week. The Democrats don't get to Chicago until mid-August, but the Republicans lead off the summer of these 2 conventions next week in Milwaukee. We'll talk to Rena about that, and I suspect get into some conjecture about Donald Trump's VP hopefuls. I'm pleased to welcome Rena Shaw back to this program. Rena, how are you today?
Hi, Tavis. Doing well. How about you?
If I complained, I'd be in great. I'm doing well also, and I'm glad to have you back on for a few minutes. Before I get into the Republican stuff, I want to give you a chance to sound off. I'm always curious as to what the other side is thinking. I began this week on Monday, as I recall, with my friend Michael Steele, former chair of the Republican National Committee, former Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, the first African-American to hold either of those esteemed positions. I had just a fascinating dialogue. People have been stopping me all week talking about what Michael Steele had to say on Monday about the Biden brouhaha. So before I get into the Republican stuff, what's your read on the other side of the aisle in this present moment?
Well, what I can tell you is I'm not that different than Michael Steele in my thinking about sort of the political environment that we all exist in these days. Whether you're in Washington or not, I mean, you've got eyes and ears, and everybody saw that debate. So it's hard to come out and say, gee, the President of the United States is in great condition. Now, I'm not trying to say physically, I'm not trying to say mentally. I'm just trying to say on a political level, you've got a principal here who is very complicated because he's not aging in reverse, and we all have to be practical in how we look at candidate longevity. Do they have what it takes to get to different groups of people who need to be brought under a tent?
Yeah.
And it's always been talked about the GOP needing a bigger tent. Well, the Democrats have known for a while they also need to make a bigger tent. And so from where I sit, my viewpoint is that, look, we've got a capable president. We've got a president that wants the best for this country, is what I believe. We've got a president who isn't complicated by legal matters, but we've got a president who is very old and who has not chosen to pass the baton. So what do you do in this situation? You look very practically at these conventions, and there's been a lot of talk about these conventions being kind of the last stand, the only opportunity at which things can happen. As a political professional, I know that's not the case. I know things can happen even after conventions are over. So I got to be honest with you, Tavis, I really feel hopeful still about the moment. There was that 24 hours after the debate that it was very hard to turn on any news source and feel good about sort of the political environment. But now that we've had some time for this to sink in, I'm thinking, number one, yes, the Republicans did get the biggest gift that they thought they were going to, that they couldn't have even expected, going into their convention. I know that. But number two, I still know that this fight can be won by the Democrats. I've not lost hope in that in any way, because I'm somebody that still rejects Donald Trump, still believes he's the worst candidate for the Republicans, and still believes that anything is possible this summer.
Can be won, but won how? Won in what frame? Won on what plane? Won how?
Well, look, the Republicans have this really unique opportunity to make this one shot, take the best shot they can in picking a proper vice presidential candidate. And when I talk about proper, I'm talking about somebody who's not a MAGA extremist. If the Republicans choose to put up a MAGA extremist, they will suffer for it. Yeah. Because what people don't want more of is the same. It's just obvious to anybody, again, who's got a working brain, is that we've had too much of the same in Washington for the past 8 years. Whether you're looking at Joe Biden or you're looking at Donald Trump, and I'm not trying to say both of them are the same individual, because one is quite literally a convicted felon, and the other one is just almost aging himself out of the job. So I think we have to take a deep breath and say, what do we want for ourselves? We want a president that is going to lead us with a steady hand. I still believe Joe Biden can be that man. Do the vast majority of Americans? I also believe that. But for Donald Trump, if he wants to give himself a better shot at winning the White House, he's got to pick somebody that's more centrist than he is. He's got to pick somebody much younger than he is. And frankly, not to throw identity politics into this, but women's issues are on the ballot this fall. And I get that women's issues are everyone's issues, but I think he's got to pick a woman.
So we'll come to Donald Trump's VP pick in just a second here. When we come forward, there are two things I want to take Rena's temperature on. She said her views aren't too different from Michael Steele's. But Michael Steele earlier this week on this program said two things I've been marinating on, resonated with me all week long. One, in no particular order, he said that he believes that all the Democratic bedwetting has made this worse. However bad the debate was, the Democrats, with all this hand-wringing and all these op-eds and all this implosion, the Democrats have made a bad moment worse with their bad behavior since that debate, number one. I want to see if Rena agrees with that. And secondly, his point was, at this point, you ride with this guy. Nobody can come up with a better alternative. You look at the polling data, there's nobody that just clearly spanks Donald Trump better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago. And his point was, y'all knew, I mean, he said it in sort of a funny way. Y'all didn't know Joe Biden was old? When did y'all figure out that Joe Biden was old? He was old when y'all nominated him the first time 4 years ago. So that was Michael Steele's take. I want to see if Rena is in alignment with those 2 points of view from Michael Steele, and then we'll talk about the RNC next week in Milwaukee and who Donald Trump might pick as his running mate. Our guest is Rena Shaw on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Oh, man. Looks like Bobby needs a ride to the airport again.
Grab the keys.
Who's taking Auntie and her friends to the swap meet?
Grab the keys.
How about we drop these boxes off at Miss Johnson?
Grab the keys.
Whether you're giving rides or hauling gear, you're all about getting things done. So do it all in a Chevy SUV. From the versatile Equinox and Sporty Blazer to the roomy Traverse, our lineup of SUVs will carry you through every adventure. All you have to do is...
grab the keys.
That's how we do. Head to your local Chevy dealer, where well-qualified buyers get 1.9% financing on all 2024 Malibu, Colorado, Blazer, Equinox, Trailblazer, and Traverse Limited models. Chevrolet. Together, let's drive.
1.9% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $28.60 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 15.8%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available with lease and some other offers. Take new retail delivery by 7/1/24.
SoCal on July 14th. Big 3. We're back. The world's greatest basketball in the summer. The Big 3. There's simply no comparison, no competition.
They not like us.
That's right, they not like us. We own the summer with our traditional hard-nosed brand of basketball. The Big 3, founded by Ice Cube. It's professional 303 basketball with former NBA greats and Hall of Fame coaches. Come out to the Honda Center July 14th. Hang with your homeboy Ice Cube and watch the greatest game in the summer. It's your homeboy Ice Cube. It's the Big 3, Season 7. The hottest game of the summer. I'll be in the house with your favorite Big 3 players and Hall of Fame coaches. Get your tickets at big3.com/tickets. Oh, yay.
Let's get back to more of Tavis Smiley right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Rena Shaw right now. She is a never Trumper, not unlike Michael Steele. Former chair of the RNC, was a guest on this program earlier this week. Rena is a noted GOP consultant. We're previewing the Republican National Convention coming up next week in Milwaukee, and trying to handicap who Donald Trump may announce as his running mate. Before I do that part, though, Rena, the two things that Michael Steele said earlier this week, again, I'm checking in. I'm, as you well know, unapologetically progressive, but I love checking in with the other side every now and again. So Michael Steele said two things, and I'll repeat them and get out of your way. One, his view was and is that Democrats have made this situation far worse with all the bedwetting, all the hand-wringing, all the implosion. Democrats have made a bad problem a much worse problem, and he just is chagrined and amazed at how they've just, mishandled this moment that was already bad, but just made it far worse, number one. Number two, he asked, not at all rhetorically, when did y'all discover that Joe Biden was old? I mean, this is your guy. And he and I had a spirited conversation about the ways in which Republicans, never mind all the drama, and let me rephrase that, never mind all, I had to stress that out a bit more, all the Donald Trump drama, on top of the 34 convictions. He's a convicted felon, et cetera, We know the story. And yet Republicans have not backed away from their guy, but Democrats are just losing it over their guy. Those are Michael Steele's 2 points I want to take your read on right quick.
Michael is absolutely correct with how he says that the sort of the apparatus that is the Democrat machine surrounding Biden, or whether it's congressional Democrats, there has been a sense that they are in disarray. It's almost like as if they had a shock to their system, and it's playing out publicly. Okay, yeah, that's very much it. But who can blame them? I mean, this is how this was going to shake out. It was going to be unusual when you saw two of the oldest candidates in our nation's history meet up again. This is the rematch that nobody wanted. So I agree. I take Michael's point that it wasn't helpful and continues to be unhelpful to the Democrats' case, that Donald Trump ought to be kicked out of the White House, from reentry again, because he is the most flawed candidate for president ever, not just modern history. We've never seen this kind of individual seek the highest office in the land. And this time we actually know what his plans are. This time we know that he can achieve these goals because he knows how to pull the levers when he gets in there. And this time the people that he'll take in with him are such unsavory characters who have no regard for the rule of law. I mean, look, Steve Bannon is sitting behind bars for that very reason.
Yep.
These are people who thought they were above the law and now have been taught a lesson by the law, hit over the head with the rule book of law, and they still continue to plow ahead because it almost seems like they're unstoppable. So the case that the Democrats had to make was, look at this flawed candidate. You can't possibly turn out to vote for him. What we're asking you to do, though you may not like Joe Biden, is to turn out to vote against Donald Trump. And that was the case with all these Democrats now coming out showing so much concern about Biden's current condition, whether they're saying he's mentally or physically infirm. That case has been undermined by this. So, yes, the former chairman of the RNC, Michael Steele, is right when he says that Democrats are acting a fool right now and should have done this privately. I don't know if those were his exact words, but those are my words. And I can tell you it's not helpful because Republicans are gleeful right now. These right-wing extremists, they have one agenda, and that's to take America back to being a certain type of nation that was not inclusive. It was not the America that my parents came to in 1970 and 1980. It's not the America in which I'm raising brown babies in that can be looked at based on their merit, not on the color of their skin, regarding their advancement in life. So this is the problem I have with the current form of the Republican Party. It is not a welcoming place. It is not a place that believes in the American way in which Michael Steele and I fit in. And that's just real talk. I mean, let's just be honest. There's one conversation to be had about economic opportunity, driving the engine forward of us being the greatest country in the world. There's a separate conversation that talks about white is right.
Yep.
And this is the issue that I have with the Republicans, is I don't trust them to not fumble the ball next week. If you put up somebody like Marco Rubio next week, then we're talking about something that could appeal to a large number of moderates, independently minded people. And look, I'm somebody that's tweeted and said Marco Rubio lacks the courage, and he's yesterday's flavor. He's somebody that has sort of been, in some ways, was relegated to the dustbin of history, but obviously is still relevant because he's a sitting U.S. senator. But all these people, if you're talking about a VP pick here, all these people that present the best option to Trump, the mightiest, the one that could wield the sword the greatest against whatever the Democrats put up, whether it's Biden, Harris, or another ticket, say they change it, right? The best person for the job by Donald Trump's side, no matter which way you shake it out, will be a moderate, will be a more centrist pick. And it could be a woman, it could be a man, it could be somebody of an ethnic background. I don't know, but it has to be somebody that is not MAGA flavor.
Yep. So there's no chance at this point, as I see it, that Nikki Haley is that person.
I would not rule it out. Look, her team is saying that she was not invited to the RNC. That's the last I heard. They're saying that she was not invited to be there. She's already released her delegates for those people who've read about that. That's more of a formality.
Sure.
She did that, number one, because she doesn't want any more bad blood. Because if she runs in 2028, these are the same people she's seeking the vote from, right? And she doesn't want to come across as petty. So she's like, okay, I'm going to release my delegates. Go vote for Trump. Let's look unified in the moment that the Democrats look really like they're in disarray. She understands politics. I mean, let's not forget, she's a political creature. She's the former governor of South Carolina. How is she not going to play right at some point? She understands her role. She understands she needs to act correct right now.
Yeah.
But I still don't think she's out of the running. People say, oh, there's so much bad blood between her and Trump. I don't think there's enough bad blood. I wouldn't be surprised if the team around Trump, which is more professional than ever before, which I believe I've said on your show before, this team around Trump in this campaign is the most professional team he's ever had in the 3 times he's sought the White House. So be very, very on the ready for any kind of surprises. They're showing one list publicly, but there might be another list in secret.
One other woman. We mentioned Nikki Haley, Congresswoman Stefanik out of New York.
Yeah, I mean, look, she's young, millennial, mother. She's kind of been carrying the water for Trump very well for years now, looking like his most kind of fierce advocate on the House chamber, aside from, of course, the Speaker of the House himself. But Elise Stefanik lacks this sort of sophistication that Trump likes in particularly the women he surrounds himself with. I would still believe that he still has his eyes on the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem. And look, I get it. There were a lot of bad stories. Remember her shooting the dog? That was written about in her memoir. I mean, like, how crass and callous can you be? But there are also, Tavis, you and I both know this, that's a tactic to make somebody look like they're very, rough and tumble, like they have real, they really have balls for the job, if you will. I hate to use that kind of language, but it's true. So there's a segment of the population that likes that kind of talk. And Kristi kind of didn't see the problem with including something like that. She knows that people will gloss over it in due time. But if you look at her on her face, she brings all the makings of what Trump would like by his side.
You mentioned Marco Rubio. Let me throw a few other names at you as we move toward Milwaukee next week in the Republican National Convention. We will get Donald Trump's running mate, that announcement in the coming days. Tim Scott, black voters, as you know, are in play this time around. There's been more articles than I can count, specifically about Trump and black men and how some of them will vote, but black voters are now, as the polls indicate, rallying around Joe Biden. I just made this point yesterday that whenever the Democratic Party gets in trouble, it's always my people. It's always black folk who shore them up and save the day for them. Black women and black voters in South Carolina saved Joe Biden's campaign 4 years ago. They're rallying around him once again. We all saw the story this week of the Congressional Black Caucus embracing Joe Biden. And James Clyburn has embraced Joe Biden, and Al Sharpton, and just a long list of folk in the black community are circling around Joe Biden, the Democratic nominee, as we always do when it comes to Democratic politics. I could have a debate about that. Maybe I will somewhere down the road. The point is not to debate it now. The point is to make to underscore this line, which is that Tim Scott is an African American. I'm not sure how that plays ultimately, but he's on the list. What do you think of Tim Scott?
Yeah, the thing about this identity politics bent sometimes is when you look at a guy like Tim Scott, or say I was to look at Nikki Haley and see some part of myself.
Right.
The thing is, it does exist in the minds of some people, but the vast majority of people just want more money in their pocketbooks, Tavis. And that's where I suspect black men feel a little bit left behind, because the economy is a feeling anymore. And though the Biden administration has shown really, really solid numbers, they've given us the black and white of how they have, brought us out of the pandemic and given us an economy, and we'll be giving the next president, if it's not Biden, the gift of a good revved up economy where people's 401ks are doing well. But ever more, people feel some kind of way about what they're spending on their daily cost of living, the price of just eggs, milk, and cheese at the grocery store, the price of my kid's summer camp, for example, or childcare. When you're talking about younger people or people from minority communities that are coming out of one block of socioeconomic status and trying to achieve another, there's just one thing in mind. Who's for me? Who's keeping more money in my pocketbook? And who's not? And that's what I think is going on here. Trump has instilled no amount of trust that he would actually do it. But every day for the past 2 weeks, Tavis, I'd be lying if I didn't say that the Trump administration keeps peppering with little kind of like, what can I say, tidbits that for small business people, for, people who are concerned about corporate tax rate, right, who see corporations as the engine of the American economy, whatever it may be, the Trump administration is trying to appeal to moderates with their fiscal policy, saying that if they're back in the White House, they would not let the economy feel this way for you. But for me, this is about trust. You can't trust Donald Trump. He's like a tissue in the wind. He's here one day, he floats over there the next day. Can't trust it, Tab.
Nope. One other name I want to, I'm just watching my time, one other name to put in front of you, Senator Tom Cotton. Been reading a lot of stuff about him of late.
That's a individual to me that kind of, look, he's an old school policy wonk. His appeal is what it is with certain segments of today's Republican Party. Could he be a charismatic, courageous vice president that has a message for the country? Yeah, he's written some opinion editorials telling the country he's got a message, but by and large, he misses the mark. And so what Trump needs is a charismatic VP, somebody that kind of solves for his age, because Trump is right on the edge of 80 right there, and somebody that comes across as more warm and fuzzy, that you actually can sit with and say, I want to get a beer with that guy. I think that guy understands my struggle a little bit. Tom Cotton isn't it. He's a little too high-minded senatorial. I would also say the same of J.D. Vance. He suffers from something of the same. Yep. The way I look at Senators Hawley, Vance, and Cotton, they're all kind of the same person. And so that kind of person isn't going to work when you're going and trying to get suburban women who've been college educated, who are living in swing districts and are independently minded. These kind of guys aren't going to appeal to them.
So your sleeper VP pick, would it be fair to phrase it that way, your sleeper VP pick is Nikki Haley still?
You got it. It's still her. And if it does become her, man, does that give the Democrats a real tough time, tougher than the moment they're sitting in right now.
Wow. So I got 2 minutes left here. Beyond the obvious, who is the running mate going to be? How do you expect the Republicans will take advantage of this great gift that Joe Biden and Democrats have given them?
Without a doubt, at the RNC next week, they will run montages of ads with, not ads, videos, so to speak, that'll come across very advertisement-like, of course, with the Democrats' own words, with all the sort of backlash to Joe Biden, the disavowal of Joe Biden by Hollywood elite. They will make a bigger issue of all this. But one thing is it's got to be crystal clear in the Democrats' counter-messaging to what the RNC will do next week. Because let's not forget, the Democrats don't convene until a full month later in Chicago. So that's a lot of time. And again, this issue of Biden's age and potential ability to choose a job is very much alive. So Democrats have got to counter-program with why Trump must be defeated. They've got to bring it all out, put it all out on the table of Trump's bad actions, not only while he was in office, but all the terrible stuff he said while he's been out in this past 4 years. This is a guy who wants to rather be in King Charles's position than be a U.S. president again, right? So Democrats have got to make the case, but the RNC expect it to get really gritty, really nasty. They're going to get into the weeds with the Democrats' own words, pushing it back right on their faces about this past week and a half, 2 weeks.
One never knows when one sets the calendar how these things are going to play out. The Democrats set their convention in Chicago in August because they wanted to have the last word. Republicans announced where they were going to go first. Democrats announced second. So Democrats saw this initially as having the last say. But the timing of the Republican convention in Milwaukee next week could not be more propitious. They got the luck of the draw. The timing of all this Democratic implosion with their convention next week, Rena lays it out. Everything she says is true. They're just going to be throwing this back in the Democrats' face all week long. And they've got a month for all this to settle. They got a month before Democrats get a chance to respond at their own convention as the Biden story continues to unfold. If I'm handicapping this, Republicans are in the catbird seat right now. I'll leave it there. Rena Shaw, good to have you on. All the best to you. Talk again soon.
Thank you, Tavis. All the best to you and yours.
Thank you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The National Hurricane Center is watching a low-pressure system located off the southeastern U.S. coast. It's currently producing some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Stay with the Black Information Network. We'll keep you updated. The remnants of Beryl are heading to the northeast, bringing the potential of tornadoes and flash floods. Meanwhile, more than 1 million customers are still dealing with power outages in Texas. The USA men's basketball team was on the court for the first time this summer. Team USA played Team Canada in the USA Basketball Showcase in Las Vegas. It was a sluggish start, but LeBron, Steph, and Team USA prevailed. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 news, the Black Information Network, at BINnews.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USA Basketball Managing Director Grant Hill confirmed that Clipper star Kawhi Leonard was sent home Wednesday because he wasn't healthy. Leonard's right knee started giving him problems again after 3 days of practices with the U.S. Olympic men's team in Las Vegas. Inflammation in Leonard's right knee forced him to miss the final 8 regular season games and the last 4 games against Dallas in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Boston Celtics guard Derek White is replacing Leonard on the roster. More than 20,000 people, including former President Barack Obama, showed up at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas to watch Team USA beat Canada Wednesday night in an exhibition game. Anthony Davis had 10 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. The team leaves today for Abu Dhabi to play exhibition games against Australia and Serbia. The Summer Olympics begins July 28th in Paris. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Happy anniversary, KBLA!
KBLA Talk 1580 is now celebrating 3 years of amplifying our voice and uplifting our community. We deeply appreciate your support of this radio station and will always do our level best to earn your support. Here's to many more years of loving and serving our community. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
I know it's gonna happen when I follow you.
Dell Technologies Black Friday and July deals are live. Check out incredible savings on select laptops and more, like the XPS 15, powered by Intel Core processors. Don't miss out on Black Friday and July savings at Dell.com/deals.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though. KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us and our climate justice campaign partner, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr., as we celebrate the grand unveiling of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Join us for a green and healthy festival with free food, planting activities, tree adoptions, nature walking tours, Zumba, yoga, sound baths, and more. It's summer, time to get outside. We look forward to seeing you at the dedication of the South LA Greenway, Saturday, August 3rd, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Augustus Hawkins Nature Park, 5790 Compton Avenue in the city of Los Angeles. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, LA City Council member Curran D. Price Jr. and KBLA Talk 1580.
At Charmin, we heard you shouldn't talk about going to the bathroom in public, so we decided to sing about it.
Roll Charmin Ultra Strong when you drop in the beat. It cleans with way less effort on your seat. Yeah, roll it, drop it. Yeah, roll it, yeah, drop it. Charmin flows extra strong from the road. Your butt hella clean while you're sitting on the bowl. Yeah, it's all you need for that bathroom groove. Get you in and out without nothing to prove.
Charmin Ultra Strong cleans better so you can use less. Enjoy the go with Charmin.
Are you wet shaving? You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops. I'm good with Gillette Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard Mama hates anyway?
Since 77. I shaved and got ingrown so bad.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturizer. So I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
The best a man can get keeps getting better with Gillette Skin Guard. Buy now at a retailer near you.
He's rooting for everybody black. Everybody black. More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Tavis Smiley and Lee Bay coming your way right now. Lee Bay, Chicago Sun-Times architecture critic, professor, and author, joins us now to talk about the Little Chicago Fire of 150 years ago and how it reshaped the city's neighborhoods and relationship between the black and Jewish communities. The fire took place on July 14th, 1874, and 150 years later, we still talking about this one fire and all that came out of it. Lee Bay, good to have you back on this program. How are you, sir?
Good to be back, brother. I'm doing well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let me start by asking this. I've been having conversations all day and every day, for that matter, as we push toward Chicago in August. The Republican National Convention we just spoke about with one of our guests taking place next week in Milwaukee. So both conventions in the Midwest this year. That says something about the electoral map. But Republicans in Milwaukee next week. Democrats will convene in Chicago mid-August. I'll be there for the week. Always looking forward to any excuse to go back to Chicago, my favorite city. So I can't wait to get back to Chicago later in the summer, although that heat and humidity ain't going to be no joke. But I look forward to hanging out in the not-so-windy city around that time of the year. But just give me your overview as a Chicago resident about how the city's preparing. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Are y'all getting excited? Do you hate the fact that now that we're all going to be invading your city? What's the city saying right now?
Well, the city is, there's some excitement, anytime a national spotlight can be put on the city likes it. There's also some trepidation because, the issue of crime in Chicago is becoming an international issue, maybe a little bit overblown, but serious. So there's concern about, how that'll play out and safety. Of course, convention itself, we don't know what that's going to be like, but not like the slam dunk that 96 was here for the candidate going after the election, after the convention. So, a little bit of everything, a little bit of excitement, a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of fear, a little bit of everything.
I've been reading a number of pieces in your paper, the Sun-Times, about the preparations, number one, but more to the point, I've been reading about what the Chicago PD and other law enforcement agencies have in mind for these protests. So again, as a Chicago resident, how are you feeling about all the protests that are surely going to happen? And to your point, this ain't going to be a slam dunk like it was in 96. I was there for that convention in 96, and again, excited to get back for this convention. We don't know how this thing is going to play out with Joe Biden or whoever the nominee may be. We just don't know as we sit for this particular conversation. We do know that there are going to be a whole lot of protests in Chicago. I've got a bunch of them on my schedule already. People are sending me stuff. Tavis, if you're going to be there, come cover us here. Come cover us here. We're doing this. We're doing that. So I know a whole lot of stuff. I'll spend more of my time outside of the United Center than I will inside. I'll be inside the United Center every day doing my show live from Radio Row. But most of my time I'm going to spend hanging out in the streets, just checking out what's going on in the city regarding these protests. But again, I've been reading stories in the Sun-Times about these protests and how law enforcement plans to cover them. As a Chicago resident, how are you feeling about the protests and the police response to it?
You know, you hope that something can be worked out, and there are discussions between City Hall and police about keeping the protests as peaceful as they can be. But you never know. I mean, you just never know. I mean, the climate is hot here nationally, across the nation. Certainly is in Chicago. There's a lot to protest about. And so there's concern, and then there's some concern that the things that happen in the city, like we had a hot 4th of July with shootings and homicides, that doesn't spill over or spill out as well. So but big cities have to be able to learn how to handle these things.
That's right.
We stumbled in '68, got it right in '96, and we'll see what happens this year.
We shall see. It's going to be hotter than July in August. In Chicago, but it's not going to be as hot as it was 150 years ago with the Little Chicago fire and all that came out of that. So for those who've not heard about this or may have heard about it but don't really know the backstory, just start with an overview of the Little Chicago fire. Why they call it the Little Chicago fire of 150 years ago, Libe?
Well, because the Great Chicago Fire, the big one from 1871, that's the one that gets all the hoopla, right? This is the one when the cow kicks over, allegedly Mrs. O'Leary's cow kicks over the lantern and burns the city down, and then it causes all this kind of all these changes in how we build and that kind of thing. And Chicago, rising from those ashes, becomes a mature city that puts on the World's Fair by 1893 and grows on beyond that. This one often lies in the shadow.
Tell me more about why it lies in the shadow.
It was less of a fire, smaller fire, 60 acres, as opposed to a much larger Chicago fire. It also happened a little bit southwest of downtown, and spread away from downtown, as opposed to the Great Chicago Fire, which spreads into downtown. So a smaller fire. Also, it burns up an area of the city, 60 acres, that are seen as folks might call it ghetto today, right? Because this is where the shanties were. This is actually part of this, and this is, Chicago, those of us who might know Chicago, this would be around, Clark and Harrison, part of the, not quite downtown.
Right.
This was outside of the fire district of 1871. So you could build wooden buildings there, or the city would kind of overlook you building a wooden building there, when they wouldn't do it in the fire grounds of 1871, the fire district of 1871, when they rebuilt that. So because of that, you had these various populations. You had black people, you had Jewish people, you had other Eastern European people there. They were kind of all mashed together in this part of the city. So it was seen as kind of like the low end of town. And that's another reason why it doesn't get as doesn't get the fame as the other fire.
No, that's always the case. When black folk are involved and people of color are involved, the story never rises to the top. Part of the pun. It doesn't rise to the top like other stories do. But I am fascinated though. What happens to the relationship between blacks and Jews in Chicago when they're trapped in this space and they're burnt out? Many of these acres burnt out by this fire. What does that do to that relationship?
Well, the African Americans, black people, and Jewish people got together. They got along fairly well. In fact, some of the more established members of the community in that spot were black people because we had banks and that kind of small banks and that kind of thing. So after the fire, an interesting thing happens. The Jewish population begins to push westward in the city into what's now Maxwell Street, and then ultimately into North Lawndale and beyond. And the black population goes in the other direction into the emerging Black Belt, as they called it then. This is Bronzeville, what we kind of famously call it now, Chicago's Harlem, and begins to grow that population there. So the two populations that were coexisting, next to each other during the fire, kind of go their separate ways.
No, there's a whole story in there. I want to probe that when we come forward. So this fire breaks out. They've been in this space together all this time, but this fire breaks out, and after the fire is settled, the Jews go one way, the black folk go another way. Isn't that telling? We'll talk about that part when we come forward with Lee Bay on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Hey guys, do you want male performance in the bedroom and do you want it now? Get it in 47 seconds or less. For the first time, you can have instant male enhancement. Introducing Nox 47, the topical male enhancement that works in 47 seconds or less. Satisfaction guaranteed. Finally, after years of scientific research, our proprietary formula will allow you to perform in the bedroom like never before. Just imagine that little blue pill on steroids. No reason to settle and wait when you can get instant performance now. Forget about pills and potions that make you wait hours or up to 30 days to work. That's yesterday's news. Nox 47 is brand new. The hottest thing for men. And you don't need a prescription. Call now and get your free supply for a limited time.
To find out how to get Nox 47 for free, call now. 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621. Free bottles for limited time. Call 800-617-1621. That's 800-617-1621.
What if the conversation about menopause and bladder leaks didn't have to be a secret? Always Discreet helps you embrace this new chapter with confidence, offering a bladder leak solution that keeps you worry-free. Its rapid dry core quickly locks away even the biggest gushes with up to 0 leaks, 0 wet feel, and 0 odor. So you can jump, dance, sneeze, and laugh uninterrupted. Everyday protection for every level of leak. We've got you, always. Try Always Discreet today.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind, but new Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with new Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lee Bay, who's the architecture critic for the Chicago Sun-Times. I know Chicago very, very well. Spent a lot of time there over the course of my life. As I said, one of my favorite cities in the country. Looking forward to getting back there this August for the Democratic Convention. But if you know Chicago as I do, Lee knows it better. He's lived there a lot longer than I have. It is, sadly, in many ways, one of the most segregated cities in this country. It still is. Chicago is still a very, very segregated city. And for those visiting this summer for the convention, if they get out outside of the United Center and move through the city, they will see that Chicago is still a very segregated city. You'll recall this is the place that Dr. King decided to expand his movement. He wanted to leave the South and move north, and he chose Chicago as the place that he would inhabit. He got an apartment there in Chicago. He and Coretta Scott King. And he tried to expand this movement into Chicago. And when you read what King had to say about Chicago, King basically opined that Chicago was far worse than the South. This is the North, but he had a devil of a time when he got to Chicago, and the pushback and the racism and the response he received in Chicago. Chicago was none too kind to Dr. King back in the day. It is, in many respects, a segregated city. Race is real in the city of Chicago. And I love the city of Chicago. Father Flager was a guest on this program not long ago, Lee. And we have these conversations all the time on this program. But that's the true story about Chicago, with all its beauty and all its brilliance and all the architecture. It has its challenges, no question about it. And so in our lives, we are all metaphorically tested by the fires in our lives. But speaking of the segregation in Chicago, I've never seen a fire split two communities like this. After the fire, to your point, the Jews go one direction, the black folk go the other direction, and Chicago is still segregated in many respects post this fire all these years later, Lee.
You know, it really is. And but one interesting thing did happen after that is that the Maxwell Street area, where many Jewish people began to settle, became this kind of commercial market area where Jewish merchants who couldn't get space downtown because of racism were able to have space there. So places like, I don't know if these names ring out nationally, but there was a Clothier, Bigsby and Crothers got their start there, and others. But what also got their start there in that kind of open air, crazy market was the Electric Blues. African Americans coming from the South, people all over the street buying stuff. There's a din, there's noise, and amplified instruments could rise above that. So there's that there. So there was that sort of getting together of people, of black people and Jewish people, other people, that happened in Maxwell Street. Black people also moved into the West Side as the years went on, as the Jews began to move away from the West Side. So there's that as well. But there was this spot there, which doesn't really exist now, where the two communities were able to get together and turn a buck, entertain, all those things.
Yeah. Now, these migratory patterns inside of cities always fascinate me. But when you go to Chicago today, as many, again, will this summer, you can still see the remnants post this fire 150 years ago in terms of how the city is divided and segregated. Our remaining moments with the architecture critic for the Chicago Sun-Times, Lee Bay, when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in.
in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Lee Bay, architecture critic for the Chicago Sun-Times, professor and author, talking about the historical journey of the Little Chicago Fire 150 years ago, how it reshaped neighborhoods in Chicago then, what it did to the relationships between black folk and Jews, and how there are remnants of that all these years later as we head to Chicago. We'll do a number of Chicago conversations between now and August as we head toward the city for the Democratic National Convention mid-August. This is a bit of a pivot, Lee, but I'm just curious, again, as to how your paper, the Chicago Sun-Times, and other outlets in the city are covering the issue of climate justice. We're in the midst of a major climate justice campaign for 12 months, a 12-month major campaign on this program and at my home station, KBLA Talk 1580 in Los Angeles, because this issue resonates with us. I call it the fierce urgency of now. Quoting Dr. King, climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. Here in California right now, as the nation sees, we are battling wildfires up and down the state, primarily in Northern California at the moment. But we're in that season. We're in that season of wildfires, and as these temperatures continue to rise, we're going to see more of these fires. And we talked earlier about the way in which this fire started in 1874, the way it started in 1871 in Chicago. But in the years to come, many of these fires, regrettably, will be started because it's just too hot outside and something catches fire. And God forbid that happens in a place like Chicago, where you guys are already, in these tight spaces, as it were. And I suspect this will be a major focus of the Democratic Convention, whoever the nominee is, this issue of climate justice, climate equity, and climate resilience. But as Chicago, like every place else in this country, gets hotter every summer, how seriously is this issue being taken in the Windy City?
There are plenty of organizations here in Chicago on the south side and west side especially, but predominantly black south and west side especially, that are on this issue, trying to do everything from doing simple things, from planting more trees,
right,
which keeps everything cooler,
sure.
To making sure that factories are living honest about the output that they put out pollution-wise. But there is some trepidation there again, because the city used to have a thing called the Department of the Environment, which really rode herd on all of that stuff. It fell off under Rahm Emanuel and Lori Lightfoot, and under this current mayor, the pieces are sewed together, but not the way they ought to be, when this really is the issue in our communities.
Yep. Regarding architecture, finally, I want to close by circling back to your bailiwick, architecture. I'm trying to think when the last time I was in Chicago, but architecture-wise, is there anything, or what are the things that you recommend, the new things that we see when we come to Chicago this summer?
I would say take a look at the West Loop, which probably barely existed back in '96 for the convention.
Right.
Now it's gleaming skyscrapers, towers, like that kind of thing. Get up into Bronzeville, down King Drive, particularly between 47th Street and, let's say, 23rd Street to the north.
Mm-hmm.
See these great brownstones and gray stones together. There's a lot to see. Certainly Millennium Park downtown is worth checking out, and anything along the Chicago River downtown.
Yep. It's going to be a great summer, I think, in Chicago. I hope for the city that the violence continues to subside. And we will be there again in mid-August. We'll do a few more Chicago conversations, as I said, between now and August, getting us ready for the big convention and whatever drama is going to unfold there. For now, we thank Lee Bay for this conversation, talking about the Little Chicago Fire 150 years ago and how it reshaped the neighborhoods and relationships in the Windy City. Lee, always good to have you on, my friend. All the best to you, sir.
All right. You too, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Just like that, 3 hours gone. Back here tomorrow with the best of Tavis Smiley. Just talking to my team moments ago. We got so many choices, so little time. So many options, so little time. Still got to do 3 hours tomorrow, but we'll choose three of the best from this week that you might have missed and reprise them tomorrow on the best of Tavis Smiley. Until then, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The National Hurricane Center is watching a low-pressure system located off the southeastern U.S. coast. It's currently producing some disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Stay with the Black Information Network. We'll keep you updated. The remnants of Beryl are heading to the northeast, bringing the potential of tornadoes and flash floods. Meanwhile, more than 1 million customers are still dealing with power outages in Texas. The USA men's basketball team was on the court for the first time this summer. Team USA played Team Canada in the USA Basketball Showcase in Las Vegas. It was a sluggish start, but LeBron, Steph, and Team USA prevailed. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 news, the Black Information Network at BINnews.com.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USA Basketball Managing Director Grant Hill confirmed that Clipper star Kawhi Leonard was sent home Wednesday because he wasn't healthy. Leonard's right knee started giving him problems again after 3 days of practices with the U.S. Olympic men's team in Las Vegas. Inflammation in Leonard's right knee forced him to miss the final 8 regular season games and the last 4 games against Dallas in the first round of the NBA playoffs. Boston Celtics guard Derek White is replacing Leonard on the roster. More than 20,000 people, including former President Barack Obama, showed up at T-Mobile Arena in Vegas to watch Team USA beat Canada Wednesday night in an exhibition game. Anthony Davis had 10 points and 11 rebounds off the bench. The team leaves today for Abu Dhabi to play exhibition games against Australia and Serbia. The Summer Olympics begins July 28th in Paris. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California. Home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising at